Okay, welcome to episode 41 of the Sean McGuinness podcast, the first one of 2020. I hope everyone had a good New Year, Christmas, etc. etc. Now, today's episode, we're going to start off on a very important topic. New Year's, new me, all that kind of stuff can, for some people, be the catalyst to change. Brilliant. Anytime something's a catalyst for change, I'm all for that. If it's the first time of the year where you actually just sit down with yourself and think about where you want to go and what you want to change, and if that's in terms of your fat loss, your appearance, your health, brilliant. I'm all for that. However, motivation is one thing. Like Jim Rohn said, you can motivate an idiot, but all you're going to get is a motivated idiot. Not calling you, the listener, an idiot, but if your approach is off or your strategy is off, well, then you can have all the motivation in the world, but you don't know how to use that to your advantage, and you're going to run out of steam. Your strategy's off. Again, in terms of business, someone could be motivated to earn millions and millions of dollars or pounds or euro, whatever country you're in. But if you don't have a fucking strategy about how you're going to do that, well, I don't know, keep playing the lotto, because you're probably not going to get very far. Same with fat loss. So we want to look at a strategy, and when you combine that with obviously a reason, inspiration, and motivation, and then when we combine them both, then we're on track to make some very good results and some very good changes. As we all probably know, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, I think the average they last is 21 days, which is not it's not a good thing. It's probably getting shorter and shorter, but it's a bit of a crazy statistic when we think about it. So what I want to do in today's episode, I want to map out how to approach your fat loss goals, health goals, etc. in the coming weeks, starting from today, basically, after you listen to this, and also what you want to avoid doing. Okay, so let's start with mistakes I commonly see people make. We see obviously people make them more around this time of year because more people probably try to change at once, but obviously at other times of the year when people do go to change, they make the same mistakes as well. You set the goal of losing weight, okay, and then you probably look at the perfect person in terms of someone who has their shit together in terms of weight loss, fat loss. So you're comparing your chapter 1, as they say, to that person's chapter 20, and you're going to skip all those pages in between. You're going to skip to the back of the book, and you're going to try to imitate that. It all sounds well and good, okay, makes sense, but the problem is, as we see when we try to change too many things, it can backfire on us. Someone will start out and they go, okay, I need to start exercising. Normally people join the gym. Obviously it's a bit different this year, but they may just start exercising and they go, do you know what, I want to lose weight, I want to lose X amount of weight, so what's the point of me training a measly 3 times a week? That's too moderate. I'm going to smash it. I'm going to train every day. In combination with that, I'm going to get my steps in, okay, because F moderation, I'm going for it, all or nothing, I'm all in, blah blah blah. Cool, sounds good. At the same time, you in the past, other people who don't listen to that this year, will probably try to cut out everything they deem as unhealthy, because they go, I'm just trying to eat healthy, I'm going to cut out everything that doesn't encompass that, and voila, I'm going to cut out sugar, I'm going to stop drinking. And then you could probably, you're setting all these other habits at the same time. You're going to drink more water. I'm going to drink 2-3 liters of water a day. I'm going to get to bed on time. I'm going to try add meditation in. I'm going to try de-stress. I'm going to do saunas, jump in the sea, cold water therapy. I'm going to shower in the morning. I'm going to do all these little hacks. Again, all sounds well and good, but what we also have to remember is we are not robots. We're emotional beings, and we don't do things because of logic. We do things because of emotion and the reward we get from that. From a behavioral point of view, because again, if we're trying to change our behaviors, it would make sense to come back and look at behavioral psychology and the science of behavior change. And again, if this is not only for clients, this is trainers as well. I've made this mistake in the past where someone's come in, they wanted to change, and I've just thrown the whole kitchen sink at them. Because why would I just go and just change one little habit at a time? That's boring. I just want to do everything, bing bang bosh. And if someone's not in a place to do that, okay, it will backfire. That's for sure. The statistic, again, like we talked about before, when you try to change more than 2 behaviors, and again, that will differ depending on the complexity of the habit, etc., etc. But when you try to change too many things basically at once, when shit hits the fan, stuff comes up in life, or when motivation drops, that's going to come falling down. There's a book, Tiny Habits. It's written by BJ Fogg, and he has a nice little graph. I'm probably going to butcher me saying this. And he has difficult habits, easy habits. Okay, and he's drawing a line. Motivation. So motivation's high at the start, okay, then it's going to curve and it's going to get lower. And at the start, it is possible to carry out those hard habits because your motivation's up. But after a few weeks, the novelty drops off of fat loss, and you're like, "Whoa, this is it's not as glamorous as it looks on Instagram. Actually, this is hard, and changing behaviors is hard, and obviously trying to do them all at once is even worse." So when motivation drops off, normally anywhere from that 3 to 6 week mark, when people's New Year's resolutions only drop off, those hard habits are now too hard to carry out, so you can't do them. They're unsustainable, they're unrealistic, and so that's one of the reasons it drops off. As we mentioned, motivation, okay, that's not going to be there forever, which is what, again, people fail to realize when we talk about the hot cold empathy gap. People forget how they feel when they don't feel motivated because they're in that moment currently of feeling motivated, so they think they're going to be like that forever. Well, no, you're not. That's the reality is you're not. You're going to have as many days where you don't feel like doing it as feeling like doing it, probably even more, because you're actually changing a habit. Your brain likes doing what it's always done, so it doesn't like to do new stuff. The idea of it seems nice, and that's actually why I laugh. Again, one of the episodes I always go back to is the stationery episode for Put the Pink Notebook Down, because when people feel motivated, they get all this stuff and they write their goals down, and as we said, they do all this stuff you probably shouldn't do, and in itself that makes them feel better because they've just writing their goals down feels like they've accomplished something, so they may never even get to the action stage. It's why people always keep, and you look at the self-help industry, it's like it's on par, I think, with the health industry in terms of money. So some crazy statistics, and it's growing massively every year. Do you know why? Because people get frustrated with the situation they're in. They go to all these self-help seminars and read their self-help books. And I know because I've done it, and I've talked to people who have done it. And that in itself makes them feel better, so that it gets them out of that negative emotional state, puts them in a positive one because they have all these ideas of grandeur, ideas of change, but you never go and fucking do it. So the same people that buy these self-help books just keep buying them and keep going back to the seminars. And I've known good, I'm not going to say motivational speakers, because again, when we look back, you can motivate an idiot, but all you get is a motivated idiot. There's no strategy around it. It's just people hyping you up all the time, which feels good in the moment, but then when you go home, you have no practical advice, practical tips to actually how to implement that. And so I know one guy who was in the self-help industry, which he was reputable, And he just bans people from coming back, because he's like, if you're coming back again, you're not doing anything. And we see the same people, that program hop from program to program. They think the next one is the answer. Oh, this one, and all they're doing, it's like when you change a new song on Spotify, you're just getting a nice little dopamine hit. Then when it gets halfway, you're like, I'm bored of this now. Another dopamine hit. Dopamine is novelty, so you just want a new one. Same with food and stuff, etc. Where did I go on that tangent? So in that Even Tiny Habits book, that's what I was saying. Motivation will drop off, so we need to prepare ourselves for that. So Hawkeye and Big Apps, people fail to realize how they feel when they don't feel motivated, and so they don't facilitate change to their lazy self. Always say to clients, will this plan work when lazy Sean wakes up in the morning? If it won't, then you need to rethink it. If it only works when motivated Sean is around, well, you're not playing the percentages right, because the percentage of the time of that is going to be very low. Even in that book, Tiny Habits, which is a very good, I always get asked on books to read, I actually recommend that. He talks about just setting the smallest possible habit. So if your goal is to work out 3 times a week, you might set yourself the goal of just doing 1 set of push-ups, because the ease of the habit will increase the rate of you doing it, and thus then you can build on the habit going forward, rather than setting yourself too big of a goal or too many goals like we talked about, and then the effort to do that is too much, so you don't do it and you never build a habit. Okay, so that is most of the mistakes. Let me see if I can see any others that I have taken note of. Oh yeah, and that's the other one. We've talked about restricting ourselves, so just cutting out everything we enjoy. And people will do dry January. Phil Learney put up a post, he goes, anything you restrict in January, you're going to overeat or overdrink more of in February. It's like people that do detoxes. I'm going to go on a detox. Yeah, but then the rest of the 360 days of the year, you're just pumping toxins back into your body, so the whole detox is pointless. It would actually be better to not do the detox, but maybe cut out more toxins the rest of the year. Wow, that's pretty smart, isn't it? It's the same with food. You don't have to do that, and the reason people do is, I don't know, there's a psychological component that people think they need to suffer to get real good results and restrict themselves. Also, they think in terms of good and bad foods, etc. as well. They think bad foods make them fat, etc., which we've talked about before. So once you understand that, and you understand that trying to restrict yourself even more is going to cause you to binge in the future. So just instead of binging in the week, just have a drink every night. Or don't do dry January. Fit some drinks in moderately, and that will save you going crazy in February. It just evens out. So yeah, that goes back to the extremes. There's those people that are really all or nothing, and they go hard and they fall off. So that's the mistakes we see people make. Let's look at ones we can do, or what to implement going forward for 2021. I do like to start with the big priorities when it comes to fat loss, and that for most people is going to be the nutrition. So if your goal is weight loss, we want to look at your nutrition first of all. Like I said there, I don't like people cutting out stuff that they enjoy, because you have to look and say, okay, what foods could you never live without? Chocolate, I like some wine, blah blah blah. Cool. Well, if I can fit them in from the start, that's going to allow you to continue on long term. You're not going to feel restricted. You're not going to feel like you're missing out on anything. And instead of it getting harder as you go onwards, it actually gets more easy. Actually gets easier. Look at your nutrition now. Okay, and we're going to link this all together. Look at your nutrition now. a fat loss comes down to calories. So you probably want to get out of your head that even if you're eating McDonald's 3 times a day, and don't be one of these people that put a big thing yesterday, a picture of a line of cars going through McDonald's drive-thru wearing masks. Something ironic about that. But let's say you're eating McDonald's 3 times a day on that topic. It mightn't be good for you just to flip the script and go all out. I'm going to eat veggies. I'm going to eat unbelievable protein. I'm going to eat no bad food. Because for a lot of people, they're not at that stage yet. So in terms of fat loss, our main priority, in a sense, is achieving a calorie deficit. So, what if I got this person and I said, okay, let's just look at the McDonald's you're eating. Normally, to create a calorie deficit, someone that allows them to lose, say, half a kilo a week. We're just trying to drop 500 calories per day from that person's nutrition. So if they're eating Big Mac, large chips and Coke with 3 meals, I might even go, okay, let's just do a Big Mac with small fries and a Coke Zero. That in itself may be enough to save 500 calories for them to lose weight. And again, this will come down to where you're currently at the moment, okay? So don't take this as I'm telling you to eat McDonald's, blah, 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 blah. You have to look at where you're currently at, and then that will dictate your plan for the future. So let's just look at a really beginner person. They just have no grasp of nutrition, no really good habits at the moment. That's fine. We're just trying to move them along the spectrum slowly. Like I've said before, for a beginner, my goal is to get the quantity of calories in check. And then as we go, we can slowly increase the quality of those calories. So they're eating 3 McDonald's 3 times a day. I've got them to order Coke Zeros and small fries. We've saved them 500 calories. Suddenly, that person is losing a kilo, half a kilo to a kilo a week, okay? I want you to think of their mindset now. Suddenly, and these are the messages that I'll get. Suddenly they go, Sean, I can't believe this is working. I'm doing it. They start to feel a sense of success because they're getting results without massive changes in their behavior. So that means they can continue it. Perfect. The longer someone can continue this, the better results they're going to get. People think they can transform themselves in 3-4 weeks just by eating Mad Clean. You can't. Get out of them. You can't. You have to do it for a long period of time. Is when you really achieve great results to your body. Now, what we can do from there. I could get that person, they're dropping weight, and I could start to get them to move more. And we're not even talking about exercising yet per se, or the gym per se. I'll start to get them to move more. They might be starting at 2,000, 3,000 steps a day, which for a fit person you might go, geez, that's mad. L-shape overweight people, we're going to say beginners, they're a bit different, okay? Because if someone's out of shape overweight, they'll probably be pre-diabetic, which means when they eat food, they're not really getting energy into their cells properly. So they can't produce energy properly. So they're always sluggish, always lethargic. In combination with that, if they're overweight, they're out of shape, they're probably chafing. Phil Learning talks about this. They're probably just not comfortable moving anyway. So they don't move, okay? So it's not that they're lazy, it's a combination physiologically what's going on, and then obviously the psychology, the confidence, how they feel, blah blah blah. Then I get them to move more, suddenly they're dropping more weight. Now, my long-term plan for this, I might go, okay, is there quote-unquote healthier? When I say healthy, I just mean it kind of gets some more food in that's going to give that person a bit more nutrients. So, for example, okay, and again, I'll ask the person, how realistic is this change? Because you always want it to be easy for them to do. If they're like, oh, I think I could do that, but it might be hard, that you may be getting them to bite off too much than they can chew. So I might go, okay, let's stick with the McDonald's Coke Zero. Can you get a salad in with your lunch and dinner? Can I give you some fruit with some breakfast? Suddenly I'm giving them more nutrients. Not only that, I'm giving them foods that are going to fill up on more, okay, etc., etc. And then as we go, as that feels easy, as they drop weight, as the physiology comes back to normal, they feel more energy, they might, and if we look from a brain chemistry point of view, someone's constantly eating very high processed foods, because those foods contain a lot of dopamine, they need more of it to get the same hit. So when they eat really healthy food straight away, they don't get any, it tastes very bland because they're used to overly tasty foods. So those taste buds can come back to normal, your brain chemistry come back to normal, dopamine receptors, etc. So suddenly they start to taste fruit, it tastes nice, salads, etc. And they might say, Sean, you know what, is there anything I can switch out for this McDonald's, a bit over it, want to get started some healthy food. So I could get that person from the start, and let's say, I don't know, 6 to 12 months, suddenly we then have, if you compare the start in nutrition to the end, they're completely different. But along the way, that change didn't feel overwhelming. So when shit came up in that person's life and they got stressed, when they wanted us to call it quits, they could still carry on with it because it wasn't too big of a change. And then we could start adding weight training in, etc., when it's all become so habitual. Same thing goes for, let's say, an intermediate person. They eat, quote unquote, pretty healthy. What they've done before, the same way, they've cut out everything, they've overtrained. Kind of goes for the same concept. There may be a person, and this goes for everyone, but I do like to get people to track their food. Doesn't mean calories tracking at the start. I just like to get them to track the food. It could be an app, could be just written down, because that just gives them a sense of the behaviours. We can't really change your behaviours if you're not aware of what's going on. So people's limiting factor may be stress eating. Okay, well, when you start to write it down, we'll see when my stress this happens, etc., etc. We'll see every morning you walk past that bakery, you get a few donuts subconsciously. When you go too long without eating, you end up binging out at the end of the day. Whatever it is, we begin to see all this stuff. Again, at the start, I'll probably come down to the same concept, trying to get some kind of calorie control in there. And then work towards that quality. Obviously, if there is behaviours that are very big roadblocks, like we said, stress eating every night, stress drinking, whatever it is, we may look at breaking that cycle as well. And when we look at breaking it, it doesn't mean my goal is to stop stress eating. No, you can't stop doing a behaviour. You have to replace it with something else. So your goal is, when I feel stressed, I will do this behaviour, and that will in turn make me feel less stressed. So you have to pick a behaviour that's going to give you the same outcome as eating the food. And that will be your only thing. So if that's your main habit that's holding you back, that's the thing you'll focus on. Don't try to change that and try to change another million things, because that's going to set you up for failure. Get the main priority, change that. And then once that becomes, the rate of ease becomes easier to do, then you can focus on something else as it becomes more habitual. And that, for most people, is what I'm talking about. In terms of habit change, there are obviously strategies we can use in terms of habit stacking. So like adding habits in there on top of an existing habit, temptation bundling, starting with the smallest possible habit, etc., etc. That's what you want to do. In terms of training, if you're at the stage, again, it depends where you at in terms of your habits. If you're at the stage where you're training already or you want to get back to it, just start with the amount of training that you can see yourself doing, even when you don't feel like it. So I had a client come in, she started in August, and her goal, she's never stuck to training before. Like I said, for a really overweight, out-shaped person, weight training may not be the most vital thing at that point in terms of weight loss, like the nutrition is. But say for an individual where they're eating relatively good, quote unquote relatively good, and obviously the leaner you are, you need weight training in there because that's going to allow you to shape your body nicely. Her goal was to just start training 3 times a week consistently. She knew she could stick to that even when her job got hectic, and that was a goal. And we kind of did it in reverse. So we started with the training, didn't talk much about nutrition starting off. We gave her some basic guidelines. But once the training got so easy, then she's like, okay, what can we do next? Then we started to tweak her nutrition in the same aspect. Just get the quantity in check and then slowly start to increase that quality of foods in there. Proteins and veg, etc, etc. And now she's got to the point where this is the longest she's ever stuck with training before. The weight and the measurements, etc, have taken of themselves. She's the leanest she's ever been, going to Christmas, etc. And she's loving life. So it's kind of chicken and egg scenario. You can start with both ends. For an intermediate, you could start with the training, get that in check first, get that to go habitual, and then you can start to knock off your nutrition. Or you could do vice versa. You can start with nutrition, start to increase your activity, and then start with the weight training. Whatever, you have to look at how your lifestyle is set up, what habits you currently have. In terms of transformations, what we see people do, okay, you'll see people go on quote-unquote strict regimes. Most of the people going on strict regimes already have great habits in place. They're just trying to take to the next level. So they already train multiple days a week. And a lot of these people are trainers, ironically, or they're in the health and fitness industry, and they go, look at my 12-week transformation, these amazing results. You did all the stuff already. You trained subconsciously already. It wasn't an effort. You ate nearly all food, good quality food anyway. It's nothing to think about for you. It's just habitual. You sleep good. You add stuff that de-stress you in already. Then it's easy to kind of tweak that and take to the next level then, because you have all the stuff in place. But if you're beginning or intermediate, you cannot just skip some stages and go to the end game. You have to work yourself through the process, and eventually you'll get there and you can do that. The more you push hard, this is in terms of dropping your calories, the more drastic you go in terms of behavior change or in terms of dropping your calories, trying to get lean, the more bounce back you're going to get. So you may stick to a mad drastic regime for a few weeks, but then you're just going to do the opposite of that, and you're going to rebel and you're going to go back to where you were. So think of just climbing stairs, one habit, the next habit, the next habit, the next habit, and suddenly you'll get to that intermediate stage. If you're a beginner, or if you're intermediate, you'll get to that more advanced stage, and it's not going to seem like big drastic changes, but when you compare the beginning and end, they will be pretty drastic. And the main thing is then you can stick to that. It is, I don't know, cliched small changes, but it's the only way. Like, for most people that have other stuff going on, job, kids, partners, real life, etc. Trying to change too much other stuff is too much mental energy. Fair enough, you're Kim Kardashian, you sit at home, you have a chef cooking for you, and a trainer comes to your house. It could be a bit more drastic then, but even in that case, we still see them yo-yo so much between it. So you've tried everything else, you've done all the stupid diets and the drastic changes. Now it's time to take Sean's advice. Behavioural change, focus on it. There's some really good apps out there. I wrote them down. That you can monitor your habits. You could draw it on a calendar where you cross it off, and so you don't break the chain. Or you might have the rule where you never miss the same habit twice. Check out some other I can't have them. I'm checking on my phone, I can't find them at the moment. Habit apps. Bonus, keep someone to keep you accountable, because that will force you a little bit more to prioritize those habits. And then in terms of your environment, make sure your environment's set up in a way so you can carry those habits as easy as possible, and then in turn look at the stuff you probably don't want to do and make those behaviors very hard to do in your environment. So there you go. It's always very hard to give specific stuff because I always group people into different categories. You could do a whole podcast alone for people in more advanced, intermediate, beginner, but that's just a general overview of the behavioural change that applies to most people. Keep it as simplified as possible. This year going forward, this is all the stuff that I do with my own clients and teach clients I work with. If you're interested, I just have my Body Transformation 2.0 program open for applications, and that will close on the 15th of January, so in 2 weeks. And when I say transformation, it doesn't mean you go from where you are to getting on stage in a G-string and fake tan. It means moving you through this model wherever you are. I look at where you currently are, and then I can give more specific recommendations for you. We work together, I hold you accountable, and then we move you through that process of a body transformation and behavior change. You finish in a better place than you'll see people, as I said, do all this drastic stuff and being left in a worse place in terms of physiology or in terms of their mentality after, and then you've just wasted all that time. So put the effort in. It's no point doing stupid plans that are unsustainable, because you might as well have done nothing in the first place, because your body's going to bounce back, you're going to get that weight back, and mentally you're going to stuff yourself up a little bit more. So that is my recommendations. Take it if you will. If you don't, it's all good. I'll still help the people that I work with, and maybe you'll fail enough times and you go, actually Sean was right. So there you go. If you'd like to apply for my body transformation program, email me coaching2021, or you can direct message me on Instagram, and I will send you all the information on that. We can hop on a call if needed to see if it's right for you or see if we're good to work together. So there you go, a bit of a roundabout way of talking about what not to do and what to do for this coming year. We can delve a little bit deeper into those topics. Go back and listen to previous episodes on all the habits and habitual change, and trust me, your future self will thank you.